Welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you joining us today. Settle in and get comfortable, because today we are unpacking a truly fascinating corporate case study. We're diving into a brilliant script called The File at 11:59 p.m. Now, when I say we are looking at a workplace drama or a light corporate thriller, I want you to completely forget about cinematic explosions, corporate espionage, or massive shouting matches in a glass boardroom. That's movie stuff. Real modern office life, it's much quieter. It's subtle, but it is intensely, almost painfully relatable. If you have ever worked in a corporate setting, if you've ever had to share a digital workspace or a cloud folder, or if you've ever felt the absolute crushing weight of an end-of-quarter deadline, well, the anatomy of this story is going to feel incredibly familiar to you. We are going to break down exactly how a seemingly healthy workplace environment can completely unravel overnight. And more importantly, we're going to see how transparency and cold, hard data are the ultimate tools to stitch it all back together.
There's a quote from the case study that really perfectly sets the stage for everything we're about to talk about. It goes like this: some office dramas do not begin with an insult, they begin with a file. I absolutely love this line. It hits the nail on the head, right? It perfectly captures the reality of how we work today. Think about it. We often imagine workplace conflict as these loud, dramatic, face-to-face arguments. But in the digital age, conflict is completely silent. It's a blinking cursor on a screen. It's a saved document. It's an overwritten folder. Our entire story today hinges entirely on a single, silent digital document. A massive campaign proposal at a fictional company we'll call Anfu Media. The drama doesn't start with someone yelling across the desks. It starts with a file being saved right before midnight. And this brilliantly illustrates how professional tension is so often buried deep beneath layers of shared drives, digital permissions, and edit histories.
Before we meet our cast of characters, I want you to just pause and think about a really profound question. It's a tough one. Have you ever done the work but lost the credit? It is a highly relatable, deeply frustrating corporate pain point, isn't it? It's that awful sinking feeling in the pit of your stomach when you've poured hours, maybe late nights, maybe given up your weekend, into a project. You did the heavy lifting, you did the research, the formatting, the deep strategic thinking. And then, in the final presentation, someone else smoothly talks over your hard work. Or maybe there's a subtle shift in the narrative that suddenly makes it look like it was this big team effort, and your specific, individual contribution just completely evaporates into thin air. That emotional core, that feeling of invisible effort, is exactly what drives the tension in today's Explainer.
Okay, let's meet the team at Anfu Media. And what is so fascinating here is how perfectly these personalities map onto almost any corporate team working under extreme pressure. Imagine them facing a brutal 24-hour deadline to launch a massive end-of-quarter sales campaign. The stakes are incredibly high. First up, we had Lim, our content specialist. She is the one quietly sitting at a desk, actually building the plan. She's hardworking, she's highly capable, and crucially for this story, she is not the type to loudly broadcast her achievements. She just puts her head down and does the work. Then we have Min, the senior marketing executive. Min is a smooth talker. He's super friendly on the outside, always smiling, but deeply, deeply ambitious. He is the guy who absolutely loves taking the presentation role when the actual work is done. Managing the two of them is Kwon. Kwon is under immense KPI pressure from the big bosses in the sales department. Because he's so stressed, he acts quickly. He wants fast answers, and unfortunately, that means he sometimes listens to the loudest, most confident voice in the room rather than digging for the actual truth. And finally, we have Vi, a designer. She's Lin's close colleague. Vi is direct, she's highly observant, and she has this amazing knack for spotting the tiny details that everyone else totally misses. Put these four very different personalities into a pressure cooker with a 24-hour deadline, and you have the absolute perfect recipe for a midnight disaster.
Let's set the scene. It is the night before the big presentation. The office lights are turning off one by one. You know the vibe. Everyone else has packed up, said their goodbyes, and gone home with that familiar, slightly relieved phrase, "Hey, we can continue this tomorrow." But Lynn is still there. Her laptop is basically the only thing lighting up the empty, quiet office. She is meticulously refining the customer insights section of the proposal. She's rewriting headlines line by line, ensuring the sales strategy is absolutely bulletproof. She even finishes up with this brilliant conceptual hook, not just buying a home, but buying a foundation to go further. She finally finishes. She names the file proposal_final_2359L. She hits save, and she uploads it straight to the shared company folder. The timestamp confirms it, exactly 11:59 p.m. The final version is saved, the heavy lifting is totally done. Or at least, that is exactly what she believes as she finally, exhaustedly, packs up her bag to go home and get some sleep.
Fast forward just a few hours to 8:30 a.m. the very next morning, right in the main meeting room. The air is thick with anticipation. Lynn stands up to present the master file to the entire team, which includes her stressed-out manager Kwon and the very impatient sales lead Hai.
She opens the file from the shared folder, clicks in the next slide to start her presentation, and just freezes. The contrast between what she remembers and what is on the screen is stark. Think about the file Lynn saved at 11:59 p.m. It had complete data, a really strong strategy, clear and compelling customer insights. But what is actually appearing on the projector at 8:30 a.m.? It's a mess. The brilliant insight slide has been stripped completely down to just a few generic, boring bullet points. The crucial comparison data, completely gone. The whole structure is sloppy. It is a completely different, severely weakened version of the proposal she poured her soul into. And right there, in front of the entire management team, Lynn is holding the remote, looking completely lost and totally incompetent.
The fallout in that room is immediate, and honestly, it is brutal to watch. Manager Kwan, who is already stressed to the max about his KPIs, doesn't have the time or the patience to investigate what actually happened. He just demands certainty, he demands strict version control, basically telling Lynn in front of everyone that she can't just rely on saying, "I remember saving it." Sales lead Hai gets incredibly impatient because for him, every single hour the messaging is delayed literally costs his team leads in money. And then the real, lasting damage begins. After the meeting abruptly ends, the hallway gossip starts spreading like wildfire. Did you hear what happened? Lynn totally lost the strategy part of the file. She messed up the save. And through all of this chaos, what is Min doing? Remember Min, the smooth-talking senior exec who sat right across the table during the entire disaster? He stays completely, utterly quiet. He literally just watches Lynn take the full brunt to the blame for a file error, offering absolutely nothing but a vague, unhelpful suggestion that, gee, maybe there was a syncing issue on her computer.
This brings us to a really profound concept about workplace culture that we need to unpack. Office gossip. It is a phenomenon that absolutely does not need complete evidence to thrive. It only needs half a truth, a few meaningful looks across the pantry, and someone who is quiet enough not to fight back. The emotional toll this takes on Lynn is immense. What shakes her to her core isn't just that the file was wrong, it's the suffocating, isolating feeling that nobody actually wants to hear her explanation. She's already been labeled as the problem. Case closed. But remember Vi, the observant designer? Vi decides to look right past the whispers at the water cooler. She sits down next to a very defeated Lynn and asks a very simple, grounded question. Are you sure you uploaded it to the right folder? Lynn pulls out her phone and shows Vi a screenshot she had taken the night before, proving the file name and the 11:59 p.m. timestamp. And Vi, with her designer's eye for detail, immediately notices something huge. The file name on Lynn's phone screenshot is slightly different from the file name that was presented that morning. Someone touched that folder after midnight.
So, what do? V and Lynn immediately open the shared folder's activity history, and boom, the indisputable digital footprint is finally revealed for everyone to see. Let's walk through this timeline because it is a smoking gun. At 11:59 p.m., the log clearly shows Lynn uploading her final complete proposal. But then, the timeline keeps going. At 12:17 a.m., Min's account accesses the folder. He renames the file. And then, at 12:23 a.m., Min replaces the file content entirely with his own version. Finally, at 12:31 a.m., he adds some comments. You guys, it wasn't a glitch. It wasn't a cloud syncing error. The file was systematically altered and replaced by the very person who sat in completely silent during the morning meeting while Lynn took all the blame. As V so brilliantly points out to Lynn in that moment, nobody protects your work better than data.
Armed with this indisputable timeline, Lynn and Vi go straight to Min to confront him. And Min's reaction? It is an absolute masterclass in toxic corporate deflection. His excuse is, quote, "I just wanted to help the team. I thought your version was too long and we wouldn't have time to present it." He uses teamwork as a shield. He argues that, hey, at the end of the day, every version belongs to the team, right? But the reality, as Vi and Lynn so sharply point out, is entirely different. If you genuinely want to help, you leave a comment. You create a separate copy labeled Min's Edits. Renaming a master file and entirely replacing the content without informing the original owner is no longer feedback. It's erasure. And staying silent while the person who did all the heavy lifting gets publicly humiliated, that completely shatters the very concept of teamwork. Teamwork can be a beautiful, highly effective concept, but when it's weaponized in the wrong moment, it becomes a heavy blanket thrown over the hard work of one specific person just to mask someone else's ambition.
This whole situation finally comes to a head in an emergency 11 a.m. meeting, and this time the division director, Mrs. Lon, is involved. Now, Mrs. Lon is calm, she's fair, and she deeply values professional ethics. She walks in and immediately sets the ground rules. They will not argue based on feelings or hallway gossip. Whoever has data, put it up on the screen. Ling steps up and projects the folder's version history log right onto the large screen for the whole room to see. And there's a quote that encapsulates that exact second beautifully. The tensest moment is not always when people argue.
Sometimes it is the moment when every excuse begins to lose its power against the data. The room goes absolutely dead quiet. Min tries to trot out his "I just wanted to make it concise for the team" excuse one more time, but under the harsh, glaring light of the projector, with the digital timestamps laid bare, his excuse just completely falls apart. The power dynamic in the room shifts instantly. All those subjective feelings, the loud voices, the morning gossip, completely dismantled by raw and disputable data. Ms. Lan handles the situation perfectly. It's a masterclass in leadership. She points out that the core issue isn't necessarily that Min wanted to edit the file, it's how he went about it. Replacing a master version without informing the owner and then letting them take the fall for your changes, that is a massive process failure and a deep breach of ethics. So to ensure this never ever happens again, she immediately implements a strict, highly constructive resolution for the entire department. Number 1, everyone will strictly follow standardized naming rules for all proposals. Number 2, absolutely never under any circumstances replace the master file. Number 3, any and all edits moving forward must be made visibly, either through comments or on a clearly marked separate copy. And number 4, the original content lead, in this case Lin, has the ultimate final version approval. Quan, the stress manager, formally apologizes to Lin for jumping to conclusions without checking the facts, and the best part? Lin's original 11:59 p.m. file is reviewed and enthusiastically approved by sales.
As we wrap up this incredible case study, it is absolutely crucial that we look at the broader lessons here. The story of Empufu Media teaches us that the roots of workplace drama rarely start with some cartoonish, twirling his mustache villain trying to ruin everyone's day. Instead, they stem from systemic vulnerabilities in how we work together. Drama breeds in the cracks of deadlines that are way too urgent, creating an atmosphere of panic. It grows when egos are allowed to get too large, pushing individuals to seek visibility over genuine, actual collaboration. It thrives when processes are just too loose, allowing digital footprints to be easily obscured or overwritten. And honestly, most dangerously of all, drama happens when a team gets too accustomed to trusting the most confident, smooth-talking voice in the room, rather than pausing, taking a breath, and looking at the clearest, most objective data available. If a workplace wants less drama and more productivity, it desperately needs transparency. Transparency in roles, transparency in file versions, and transparency in individual contribution.
Which brings us to our final and perhaps most important takeaway of the day. A capable person knows how to protect the truth with data and kindness. Think about Lin. Lin didn't win because she yelled the loudest. She didn't win because she threw a massive tantrum in the middle of the office. She won because she stayed calm, she found the indisputable evidence, and she spoke up with total professionalism. But remember this, kindness does not mean being a pushover. It does not mean allowing someone else to cross the line and take credit for your late nights and your hard work. If you ever find yourself sitting in an empty, quiet office at 11:59 p.m., pushing a huge project across the finish line, please remember Lin's story. Saving your file isn't always enough anymore. You have to ensure the evidence of your hard work is saved and protected too. Because your effort, your brilliant ideas, and your dedication always deserve to be called by the right name. So I'll leave you with this thought to ponder today. Have you ever survived a digital office mystery like this, where you actually had to dig up the data to prove your own hard work? It happens way more often than we think. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope you found it as fascinating as I did. Keep your files safe out there, back up your work, and I'll see you next time.